Hello, you fucks. Welcome to John Solo's Beard Brigade. I'm John Solo. You are not, and I just realized I forgot to update the ticker. Look at that. Every time I forget one little thing, one little detail. Anyways, hello. All right. This week, today we are working on this is a new one to us, DJ Jameson. Little DJ Jameson. I've seen DJ around, but I've never worked on a DJ Jameson book until now. This is The Games We Play is the series name, and the first book is Never Have I Evan, and it's fantastic. It's really good. It's a rom-com. You guys are going to love it. We're working on that today. We should be finishing it up tomorrow. We're going right into Morticia Knight, Diva Pop. It's Command and Care Book 5. Everyone loves that series. It's a hit. And then we're rolling straight from that into, let's see here. We have a one-day Under the Pier Book 2 Without Promises. I think it's another Tantor project. That's a dual narration. That's an MF. But then we have The Price of Surrender, Durrani Book 1. That's by CJ Dragon. That's a new client to us as well. So, busy week this week. I guess is what I'm trying to say. We got the Ramblin' Gremlin show coming up on Thursday as usual. And yeah, other than that, we're doing the deal. Doing the D, you might say. My guest today, I actually had to reschedule this guy, unfortunately. We had him scheduled in at a weird time, and it's because he lives in France, and he's a little ways away, and the time's quite a bit off. And unfortunately, last time this did not work out. So we got this going on today. Oh, also, Tracy reminded me. Thank you, Tracy. Tomorrow we got a dual duet narration with me and Andrew Gray. Tomorrow at 5 for Andrew Gray's recent release as well. Anyways, this guy today, I've never actually met this guy face to face, but I think we ran into each other years ago on Facebook. Without any more from me, I give you Piers Ryman. How the hell are you, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Dude, it's a day in the life. It's Monday. My normal Mondays are like ridiculously busy. I don't know how your Mondays are, but mine are stupid. Mondays are my hard day because I have this podcast, but I also I've been getting into this working out thing. I'm not very good at it, and I'm kind of old, so it hurts a little bit. But
I think you'll find we're both in the prime of our life. But yes,
yeah. I'm 45, going on 93. Is about where I'm at. And my trainer, man, I work out with a guy. It's way cool. I met him at the YMCA, and he's a trainer. He's a super nice guy. We go to his house now, and it's sweet. It's the perfect little setup. He's not very expensive. He helps me and my wife. And I don't know if somebody's shitting his Cheerios this week or what, but he is. He normally we do like 3 sets of something. 3 sets of 10. That's pretty common, right? Yeah. This week out of the blue, he decides we're doing 4. Just out of the fucking blue. And he's giving me like a mean, like he's giving me he's not like Popeye, but it's like he's doing that with his eye though, staring down at me. It's like, do 4. It's horrible. So I do that, then I try and rush a session in before I get started. Got to get something in my belly before I try and rush a session in, and now the Talk to the Beard show and more. So, how's your Mondays, man? What's your day look like normally?
yeah, good, man. First day back for us. I have tended to work 7 days a week for quite a while to keep up with stuff, and literally 2 weeks ago, my wife and I said this is not sustainable. We need to have a day off a week, or we're going to die. So literally 2 weeks ago, we declared Sunday a complete work-free zone. No housework, no ironing, no nothing. And it's fabulous so far. So at the moment, Monday is probably going to be my best day for a while because it's going to be the day after having had a proper rest.
I made a recent decision about this where I am now attempting to take a day off in between projects, which sometimes can be 2 days a week. I'll switch between kind of thing, and that little buffer of I'll read the next book, I'll chill out, I'll relax. I'm still doing a little bit of work, but not in the booth, man. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this 4.5 years, I suppose.
Okay, yeah,
4.5, yeah.
and you are booked out your ass, I bet, right about now.
I've got a couple of slots for people that I already work with, but I'm basically booked through 2023 into 2024 now.
Yep.
I keep a couple of slots, obviously, but yeah, I'm quite busy at the moment, which is grand. It's delightful.
Yeah. There's so much work. It's ridiculous. I try and keep with my regular clients. I try and keep they're going to have a new release, that sort of thing. I try and keep it so I can swing them in the first couple few weeks. Hopefully hitting that new release date, but if not, at least within a couple weeks of it. Unfortunately, we got behind near the end of 2022. I just had a
Hmm.
hell of a November. I got sick, and this one, dude. Colds always take me 10 days, but this one was almost a full month. Then I had some personal issues, and so now I'm behind. I don't have that slot like I
Mm.
normally do with my regular clients. At 4.5 years, though, the day off thing, you were cracking me up with that because I remember I had myself. I try and only stay 3 months out now. I could book
Mm.
the next 2 years if I wanted to, but I try
Mm.
and stay 3 months out just so when shit hits the fan, like at the end of 2022 for me, when
Mm.
shit hit the fan, I don't have to contact 42 people. It's like
Mm.
10. It's
Yeah.
manageable. So I think I ran into you like when I first started coming out of my hole. I worked in a vacuum. I didn't talk to anyone, no social media or anything like that from
Mm.
2012 in the industry until about 2017 or so, 2018. And I finally started getting
Mm.
on social media and I got into the Indie ACX forum. And it seems to me that I chatted with you a couple times through that Indie ACX forum.
Mm.
Are you a Reaper guy by chance?
I am a Reaper guy, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that I interacted with you multiple times through there,
Mm.
chatting about Reaper and the various disadvantages and advantages, and I love it to death. It's my favorite
Yeah.
fucking. It's just massive the difference. But you at the time were you're living in France, and I think you still are living in France, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you were looking to rent out a room, if I remember correctly, because you had studio space and you had a house or something like that, and you were looking to rent out a room to get in somebody that's maybe another voice actor, which would be a perfect scenario.
Hmm.
You ever managed to pull that one off?
We did, yeah. We ended up with not a voice actor, but a sound engineer, guy called Angel, Spanish sound engineer chap, who ended up spending about 5 months with us. Then went on to the UK. He is the deputy head of sound at the Leicester Curve at the moment. And he comes back and hangs out on a regular basis, and it was a really good experience for us actually. At the moment, we're not looking to get anybody in because
Mm.
we're way too busy, and we need a bit of time for ourselves at the minute. But we have like a little apartment which is part of the building but separate, so that's generally for family and friends, and if we know anybody in the business that wants to sort of run away and hide for a week or so, that's always available to people we know. And that's, yeah, it was a really good experience hanging out with a sound engineer, not talking about work all the time, but of course things come up while you're chatting with any professional. Totally opened my eyes to tons of stuff that I wasn't even aware of.
Oh yeah, yeah. You get a. So you bought a house, like it's in a rural environment, right? So you're kind of out in the country in France. I know nothing of
Yeah.
the geography of it, but are you on the north, south, east, west side of France, in the middle? Where are you at?
All right. So we're northwest France, which is, if you think about France as it's a hexagon, but if you think about it as a square, we're sort of in the top left.
Okay, cool. Uh,
It's very, very, very rural. Cows
uh,
and broken dreams. That's basically what there is here.
well, hell, you're describing my state, Ohio. It's the same. We got ag cornfields in there, and you got it perfect for me. And that's awesome though, because you have a relatively quiet environment. I would think it's really not super. You're not in the city or anything like that. You don't have to deal with any of that shit. And when you guys bought this, it's you and your spouse, right? Your wife, is that
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
When you bought this, you had in mind we're gonna. Is she a voice actress as well? Is she in the business or no?
She is in the business. She's an audiobook editor.
Excellent.
She started off proofing my books,
Hmm.
and she was so good at proofing that I sort of said, you might want to think about this. So she got hold of some people, took some training, and she's now booked out for most of the year as well.
Dude,
She's
that's.
very, she's one of these people that just, she's got a very, very detailed mind,
Hmm.
which is perfect for that kind of thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
she's got good sound.
My wife got into the industry in the same way, and she actually worked in the booth for a bit. and she's good at
Hmm.
it, and she can do that. But then she worked on the proofing side on the back end. She's done prep work for me. She'll prep books for me, that sort of
Mm,
deal as well. It's really very beneficial, and she understands how the industry works. She knows
yeah.
what I'm talking about. I came from an audio engineering background myself. What
Mm.
what what did you do prior to this?
I was an actor
Okay,
for
so
quite a long time. So, yeah, in terms of the sort of performance side of it, wasn't that stressful to map the skills across to audiobooks, but the technical side of it was very challenging for me.
yeah, where it was for me, that was the easy shit. That was
Mm,
I live for that. The acting. Now the way I broke into it, I actually I had the space. So me, a buddy, and my wife all did ACX auditions at the same time, and all
mm,
three of us got some books. My buddy ended up just being fantastic at it out of the gate. He sounded so good. I sounded like shit. My wife was all right. My buddy ended up getting much more of the work, and I ended up booking a couple large contracts. So I went and got more of my buddies. So we're actors and came in, and so I had a booth, and I would produce, edit, all that fun shit on the
mm.
back end, and we were producing 6 or 7 actors out of here at a time for I don't know 2 years, 3 years, something like that. It's the best masterclass acting school I've ever. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I got to sit here and observe other guys doing it incredibly well all day long. That's how I ended up getting into it. And then over the course of time, I ended up starting to get popular myself. And man, at this point, it's just us and pretty much mostly me. My wife kind of hangs out on the back end again and does some of that work. It is what it is. Are you focused mostly on romance? What genres are you doing?
Whatever comes up. So I've got all. I do all of that. I'm quite being open is quite important to me. So obviously, I work as Piers Ryman, and I also work as Rafe Beckley. Rafe Beckley is all of the safe for work stuff, which is generally romance and epic fantasy. And then Piers Ryman is, if it's got any sexy times in it, it goes under that name, simply because I live in a slightly paranoid dream where a 13-year-old's got an Audible thing and by the other titles by this author. And I really don't want that to happen. But I'm very proud of both sets of work, so I acknowledge both names.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I do lots of gay romance. I've been doing a lot lately of sci-fi furry stuff,
Okay.
which has been
Yeah.
really interesting. That's a whole new world for me.
A
Um,
whole new world. Yeah, yeah. It's eye opening,
it's
isn't it?
certainly another point of view, definitely.
Yeah.
No,
It,
they're good. And they're really well written books. So it kind of doesn't matter when you're reading a well written book. To me, it doesn't necessarily matter the genre as long as it's well written. It's fun to do.
the Impreg was my intro into that. Back in 2017, I became. They called me the butt baby king. I did more Impreg than it was. I swear to God, dude, this house is the house that Impreg built. It was my career for about 3 years, and my just nothing but. And I learned more than I ever. I had the time of my life though. I remember one of my clients. Do you ever get this call? You ever get this or email? I guess from one of your clients that says, "Hey, how do you feel about?" And
Hmm.
they think they're stretching your boundaries, right? Most of the time these days, you cannot stretch my boundaries. I've been around the block a few times now, but I remember one of the first ones was, now you've done all these MPreg books, that sort of thing. How do you feel about a moose shifter? I'm like, all right, cool, great. Moose, why not at this point? Bring it on. What do you? Yeah. Do you ever get one of those inquiries and it's kind of crossing a line that you don't want to cross? Have you ever turned down a project because of something that was too far?
I've never turned down a project. I've had a couple of projects where I've had to kind of focus on the writing and not the thing. But again, because the writing's been so good, it's been fine. I've I'm lucky enough to work with a lot of the indie authors I work with. I'm lucky enough to have sort of really open, forthright, honest conversations with. So if anything came up that was like a hard no, it would be fine to have that conversation. The only hard no's for me personally, and I sort of say this to anyone: no dubcon, no non-con, just because like I totally get that people like listening to that, or it wouldn't be so big. and I don't want to yuck someone else's yum. It's absolutely fine. It just would be a little bit hard for me to narrate. So I've bowed out of those ones. But other than that, man, if everybody's over 18 and they're consenting, send it my way. I'm absolutely not a problem.
Yeah, me too. I've done it. At some point, I realized that's not the deciding factor here. Okay,
Mm,
it's not about whether I'm going to say you be offended by that or not. It's a question of money and time.
yeah.
Now, I took uh, uh, classes off of Sean Pratt for a little
Hmm.
while there. He's a friend, a wonderful coach, and one of the insights that he gave me, and I've talked about this a lot on this show, is how I select a client. Now, I deal with some like Tantor and Podium and those kind of
Mm,
people too, but I deal a lot with indie. That's my bread and butter. And his insight was, does it pay? Is it the right money? Um, is it something you're going to enjoy? And is it going to further your career? Is three. And if you get
mm,
2 out of 3, take the job. Um, I added one in there as well of if I really like the person, because that's become such an integral part of my business. I've been doing this a long time, and 95% of my work is repeat clientele. I work a
mm,
lot with repeat clients, and if I like you, I'll do just about whatever. Just send it over.
yeah.
I like you. It's just
Yeah.
that, whatever it is. Do you find yourself stretching with the romance genre because I went through this myself. I'm a straight white guy. Do you find yourself stretching at all with the love scenes or anything like that? Did it bother you in the beginning? Did you get
Mm,
used to it?
not at all. Absolutely. From from my point of view, everybody exists sexually on a continuum anyway. That's no problem for me to be able to inhabit those parts.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't
I
much of
think
a
that's
stretch for me either. I
yeah,
did.
exactly. It's
I had that question though recently. I work in Discord all the time, and I had one lady ask. I did a straight romance, and they're well aware that I nothing's nothing's popping here in the booth when I'm doing these sex scenes. It's just not like that, you know. And there's a shit ton of things on your mind as it is. You're concentrating on the performance, and you're in the scene, and there's a lot of technical things too. Did that make a pop? Did it make a click? Did you got all these things going on. Last thing that's going to happen is you're going to get horny when you're recording these scenes. But I did an MF book, and one of our friends in the crowd said, "Hey, does this one?" And I said, "No, it's still just no. It's not. It's no. You're performing a scene. You're not getting into it that way." What kind of did you do stage work? Did you do TV work? What did you do?
odds and sods, really. I was a jobbing actor, so bits and pieces of local reps and national reps, well, such that they are now. There's not that many of them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, shorts, mid scale tour, small scale tour. Went through a period when I did loads of commercials for some reason. No idea why. I guess my look at that during that sort of 2 or 3 year window happened to be what the advertisers were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've directed in theatre and produced in theatre and bits and pieces as well. So I'm coming at it from a more rounded perspective, I
Okay.
guess. Which again, I think is part of what made that jump from the acting world to the world of audiobooks easier, because I
Mm-hmm.
was more used to wearing different hats. I gather from actor friends that have made the leap that it, it's been a little bit more of a learning curve for a lot of them, because there's so much other stuff you have to be aware of while you're doing the acting.
Well, yeah, yeah. The technical aspects of it, those come naturally to me, and I don't think about it. But I think that's what you're referring to, correct?
Mm.
The you've got to actually get this recorded. Um, did you make the jump to punch and roll? You're doing that now, right?
Oh yeah, I've been punching and rolling for a while, but I was so scared of the technical side. It took me ages to jump to punch and roll.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I jumped to punch and roll, my like as you know, as everybody knows, my productivity nearly doubled.
Mm-hmm.
I was absolutely producing a far more audio, and I think b much better realized, better performed,
Mm-hmm.
because I was all you know that thing where you're gliding into the punch. You get to get the emotion right as you drop into it, and I didn't realize I wasn't getting that until I finally sort of got over myself and learnt to punch and roll, which for anybody that's watching this, it is into that. It's not difficult. Do it. It's really fine. Don't be scared.
Yeah, no shit. It took me, I, in being honest here, I bet you 12 to 18 months where I could get consistently where I never noticed my punch and roll hits. Um, if I'm going back and listening, I came into this as an audio engineer, so I was an editor, and trust me, dude,
Mm.
I can pick up your pickup lines a mile away. I can like, and I know where. It took me about 12 to 18 months before I finally got good enough at it, comfortable enough at the process, and just coming in at that point, coming in at a slightly lower volume than you think, and the speed and the tempo. And but once I got it, the other thing that it made me do though, I don't know if you're like this, but for me, if I have a chance to give two, three, four, five, six, 7 takes of something to try and get it perfect and try and get, oh man, I will keep on second guessing myself till the end of time. Punch and roll really makes you make a decision, go productive. Boom, you're rolling. There is no the little. You remember the clicker? There is no going back and how many takes did I have of this? Which one's right? Here, nothing like that. Fuck all that. We're just
Mm.
going to make a decision and go with your gut. Now the difference also between, of course, commercial acting, like you're talking about, and also plays is typically you would only have to play one part over the course of, let's say, a commercial, 1 day shoot, or even
Mm.
a play. Maybe you're doing this play for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. Now you get to play all the parts. You're all the voices. You are everything in this book. Was that a hard adjustment for you? Was it exciting? Was it scary?
Massively exciting and very freeing,
Hmm.
actually. I always found when I was in theatre that the first week of performance, I was shitting myself. The second week of performance, I'd kind of relax into it a little. And after, once you get into week three, I was just bored to shit. Bored to shit. Same show, 8 shows a week. I never found that fun. I always preferred the rehearsal room. That was always my favourite bit of the job. And now, essentially, what we do is we're in the rehearsal room all the time. Only if we like what we're doing, we print it. That's for me. That's all it is. So I get to have all the fun with none of the pressure, none of the performance pressure, and I don't even have to justify my choices. Like you were talking just now about punch and roll. I'll do something and I'll just think to myself oftentimes, no, that's not it. And I don't even have to think, why is it not it? What was it I didn't like? I just go, no, that's not it. Drop in, punch, go. So I got to a stage after 4.5 years of this part of the performance journey now, where I feel now I can just trust myself. If it doesn't feel right, I just go back and do it, and I don't feel that need to pick everything apart anymore, which is a much nicer place to be.
Oh God, yes. It's freeing. I think is exactly the way you just described it. But there's a discipline to it. I've felt where one thing I will also do. Very rarely do I get to a point where I'm hitting something 3 or 4 times. It rarely happens. It's typically I'll have a fuck up. Let's say I haven't messed up a line itself. I'll just have something where I feel it's not quite right. I'll jump back and do it again. If I'm hitting 3 times, I'm seriously questioning myself. If it's four, I have made wrong decisions prior to this that are setting up this
Yeah,
mistake, and I'm trying to do something I'm not capable of. And at times, I've gone back and ditched a day's work, 2 days' work. You just there's a pride thing involved. Like I'm not booked as much as I want because I put out shit. So I have to make sure it's right. As somebody's asking in the crowd, do you have trouble doing other accents?
I can either do an accent or I can't. And if I can't do it at the point of booking, I grab hold of my voice coach and book some sessions and I learn the accent.
Hmm.
Once I've got an accent, once I've done a whole book with one or more characters in that accent, it's usually pretty locked in by then.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I haven't got any decent regional American stuff. I can sort of take you a bit south, but it's a bit hokey, and I'd really rather not do that. But most of my stuff's Brit stuff anyway, so it's not really that much of an issue for me.
Yeah.
I kind of like it actually when you get a new book and it's an accent or a couple of accents that you don't have. And you can certainly the relationships I've got with my indie clients, I can just say, look, I'm going to need a little bit more time on this because I'm not going to put a shit accent out. So I want to book some time, a few sessions with my coach, get it right, and then we'll go to the first 15 and see if you're happy.
That's
I
awesome.
like that challenge.
Mhm. Well, and you have so many accents over there that you've been. Uh, Obviously, you've lived in the UK your entire life,
Mm,
and y'all are exposed to so many different accents on a daily
mm,
basis that living in the States where I am, I'm not. I hear 15 kinds of Southern and sometimes Spanish. That's about
mm,
it. You just aren't getting it other than that. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I got cornfields, a
mm.
bar. That's about it. You guys are exposed to all of this very quickly. Are you able, this is a dumb question, are you able to work ACX through, from France like that? I don't really, some countries are,
Oh, so I can, but only because I still have a presence in the UK. I still have an
okay.
address. I have bank accounts there.
Mhm.
We spend, obviously nobody from anywhere is looking. We spend sufficient time in the UK to be entirely eligible for ACX.
Perfect. That makes sense then. Well, I've had a hell of a time with some clients. I have one, I believe he's in Sweden. It's a pain in the dick when there are a couple other distributors out there that are okay as far as that goes, but
Mm,
it's you kind of get used to the ACX paying every 30 days, and you kind of get used
mm.
to you sell a lot of books when you put it on ACX. It's just that simple. Um, what do you and your wife do in your spare time? You like Netflix couch people, or are you out hiking the Kilimanjaro? What are you doing?
Spare time would be a wonderful thing. We do. No, we do. We generally spend lots of time together because we're really fortunate. We get on like a house on fire, and we've still 10 years in, 10 years of marriage. We still haven't had an argument. We've come close. Oh boy,
Okay,
we've come
you see,
close.
you had me going until there. Yeah, like I was believing you up until that point.
No, one of us has always said, you know what? Let's not have an argument. Let's choose not to argue. So the time we spend together is great, and we often just sit in front of the fire and do the crossword, or yeah, maybe stick a movie on, or get Scrabble out. Or it sounds really, I don't know, for some people that sounds ideal, and for some people I'm sure it would be a nightmare. But we're perfectly happy with our own company. We've got a few friends around here that maybe we'll go. I say go for dinner with, but there's nowhere to go for dinner here. So you kind of go to somebody else's house for a meal, or they come to yours, and that's about it, man. That's about. We've got three dogs. Liz walks them in the morning. I'll take them out at the weekends because she gets to lie in. But other than that, we just pull the drawbridge up and enjoy hanging out together.
Dude, that sounds like a wonderful life, Piers. Seriously, that sounds
It's
amazing.
it's honestly, I if you told me 10 years ago this is where we'd be, I wouldn't have believed you, and I wouldn't have think I would have wanted such a quiet, peaceful, tranquil life. But
Hmm.
now that it's what we have, I wouldn't swap it for anything. I certainly wouldn't go back to live anywhere near a city or even a small town.
It
At the
is.
village we live in, there's 100, just under 100 people in the whole village.
Mm.
There's in the commune, which is kind of like the smallest administrative region in France. There's only about 350 people.
Holy
We
shit.
just live in the middle of nowhere.
That's perfect, though. Absolutely
Yeah.
perfect. So you said the magic word here. What kind of dogs do you have?
Magic word. So we have a border terrier
Mm.
who's 15 now. She's getting on a bit, getting the joint issues and starting to go down the road of incontinence, but that's okay. We can manage that.
Mm.
We've got a rescues, half French bulldog, half, what are they called? The fluffy things, the white fluffy
The poodles? What?
clouds. No, the
Poodles
tiny
are.
ones. A Bichon Frise. She's
Okay.
half a
Yeah,
Bichon
yeah.
Frise.
Yeah.
And we got a third one about 3.5 years ago now, who's a tiny little wire-haired dachshund. He's a tackle. I don't know if you. He's bonkers. He's obviously an ex-Shas dog. He's an ex-hunt dog, and he's beautiful, and he loves cuddles, and he sleeps on the bed, and he's a very good boy. And then something furry catches his eye, and he goes to kill it every time.
Well,
It's got no fear.
he's perhaps been reading some of the books you've been working on recently with furries. Dude, that sounds like so much fun, though. Especially out in the country, you can go out, you can go for a long walk, you can let them run. It's fantastic. It sounds like a great life you got going on there, dude. What? I actually listened to a couple of your samples. You sound great. What microphone do you use? Sorry to get technical with you. I
Oh,
know you're
no, 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 no. I'm currently and have been for a few years on a Sennheiser 416, and I
okay.
absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
Now, how does it do? What size boot do you have?
So I custom built, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fucking huge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I when I first built the booth, I had no idea about booths. I didn't know what was going to happen work wise, so I just built to the size of a big piece of OSB strand board for the
Mm-hmm.
floor. So I've got a booth that you could get three people in very comfortably.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
could do a small radio play in my booth, which really I didn't need to do, and I spent far more money than I needed to on materials. But yeah, it's just double skin drywall, rock wool in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Inside the sound treatment is this thing called, it's like an insulation here made by a company called La Relais. And it's all of the, all the clothes, secondhand clothes that you put into the sort of big clothes dumpster things that go to charity.
Yeah, yeah,
They go through all of those. The anything that's
yeah.
saleable goes to charity shops, and anything that's made of cotton, particularly denim, gets shredded, recycled, flame treated, and turned into this
Hmm,
cotton insulation for
that's
homes.
mass.
And it turns out that that mass is just beautiful if you line your whole booth with it.
Dude,
I
that's a
don't know if
lot
you
of
can get it
mass.
outside of France. Yeah,
Never
it's
heard of it.
amazing. Really good.
Yeah, never heard
Really
of it
good.
here. The rock wool, that's a staple, and I have quite a few baffles here on top of in the walls and shit too. But we have something called Owens Corning 703 board. Have you heard of it?
Mm.
It's a
No.
semi-rigid, I guess, semi-rigid solid piece. So it's incredibly easy. You know, the rock wool kind of it's floppy. It flops in
Mm.
and out. You know that sort of
Mm.
thing. This is solid rigid, and it just has more mass. It's also more expensive. I think I have one, two, three, four, five, six panels, $200 for six panels DIY.
Okay.
So not the cheapest thing, but they are better. The Rockwool stuff, though, there's nothing wrong with that. Your microphone choice, you need to have a larger room for a shotgun microphone like that. You just have to. Otherwise, it's gonna sound boxy. It's gonna get phasey as shit. I've heard guys with the 416s and small, like mine's actually a pretty good size too. I custom built this one, but in small rooms with a shotgun microphone, and I think they sound like horse shit myself. But yours, with your space, dude, tits. Plus, it's perfect for your voice too. It sounds so good. You made the right choice.
Good, thank you. I mean, I was sort of backing and forthing on it a lot, but a lot of the more sensitive large diaphragms, I'm just constantly worried about background noise, shuffles, pops. I'm a fiddler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a kind of a mover and bits and pieces, and just the chair creaks and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
When I listened to the 416 and thought about all the sort of off axis rejection I get from it as well in the
Mm-hmm.
bigger space, for me it was kind of a no brainer. But I'm glad a proper sound engineer likes the choice. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. I started with an SM7B. Well, actually, I had a Rode NT1A before that. My space sucked, so I went to an SM7B, and it was really good for what it was. Then I finally built my booth. I was in an old garage that I'd converted prior, so it was not very well treated. Just the packing blanket fort. We all start there.
Mm.
Um, that's what I had in the beginning. So, anyways, the SM7B did really well. And when I finally built the booth, I had the SM7B in here for a while, and it was fantastic, but it just lacked detail. There's something about when you get a good, the SM7B doesn't suck, but the
Mm.
416 or like the Neumann, the 103, there's something about the emotional context that comes across on a microphone that's that detailed that does not come across on some of the large diaphragm uh, dynamic mics like the SM7Bs. It
Mm.
just doesn't. And I knew it was more detailed, but I couldn't really put it into words. But the emotional context that you get, I don't know, man. The excitement's more exciting. The romantic scenes are more. It's just, it's more. I don't know how to describe it, but you got to have the right space. If you don't, you're fucked with one of these. You're done. It's going to pick up a mouse farting at 200 yards. They're ridiculous.
Well, I mean, talking about that, I've always wondered, and I've never asked anybody with a TLM. how do you like how much extra engineering are you having to do to get rid of and clean up all of the extra stuff that's getting in there? Or are you just banging it through RX and making sure your settings are right to catch everything?
RX, to be honest with you, but I'm really good with RX. I'm like a wizard with RX. That's my tool. I love it, and I've
Mm.
spent years working with RX. But that being said, I used to go through and clean every little bit out. But I'll tell you, with some crafty upward expansion and some crafty downward expansion, some crafty compression, basically, and not gating. Don't gate. I did that for a while, but that expansion really is just wonderful. And the truth of the matter is, and it took me a long time to realize this, dude, a long time. Most people are not listening to us in an ideal environment. I would say the vast majority of them. There's a TV playing in the background. They got one earbud in. They're at work. They're wherever. They're on the train. Um, 95% of the shit that me and you hear, if we're going to go through and edit out some of the tiny little things in the background, 95% of it, they're never going to pick up. So with a little bit of expansion, take it down by 5 or 10 dB max. I like 5 myself for my setup. It's perfect. It never gets through. Now, I have my pet peeves as far as that goes, and stomach noises with the 103 for me and for other narrators I know as well. Stomach noises are the real issue, and you just have to do a bang up job of self-producing. If you hear anything come up while you're in the booth, redo that fucker. They still slip through. I don't know. Maybe want a book. No one's complained. No one said anything in years, but I know they do. But the stomach noises, dude, you have to time it just right. There's got to be like, I'm gonna wake up. I'm gonna exercise. I'm gonna make sure I'm hydrated and all that fun shit. You do all that stuff that we all know we have to do, and then you got to make sure that you eat something, preferably with a light carbohydrate. Light carbohydrate. That's an oxymoron, but you get that carbohydrate in there to shut up your damn stomach juices for 2 or 3 hours, and that's what you get, a 2 or 3 hour window. Then you're gonna have to repeat. You're gonna have to get something else in there. It sucks.
Well, that's kind of where I ended up. It might sound odd to anybody that doesn't do this for a living, but purely by trial and error, I've discovered that for my body, a banana, a Greek yogurt, a bit of honey, and some uh, cranberries. So that's what I eat every morning and every lunchtime, 7 days a week. And a lot of people say that must be really fucking boring. It is, but it's a lot less boring than having to go over again and again in the booth when you've got stomach noise. So I kind of suck that up and have a really nice dinner.
Yeah. Whether you're hungry or not, you better get that shit in your stomach. Mine is English muffin, any kind of toast, anything like that. Any sort of. I like sourdough bread the best. It seems to treat my body the best, so that's what I like the most, and that's what I go to a lot. But eggs too sometimes, but no, the carb. But yeah, the shitty thing is, it's kind of like being an athlete, but you're not. Because trust me, I'm certainly not an athlete. But it is in the fact that you have to treat your body a certain way every day. You get to know these things. And when when you're sitting in front of a world class microphone, it's picking up everything. The human body makes some funky noises, Pierce. Let me tell you, it's amazing. Now, is your wife doing all of the back end tasks for you, or are you hiring out for an editor and just having her proof? How are you working that?
My wife does everything.
Beautiful.
Which is another reason I don't have to worry about stuff like RX. I mean, I probably can use some of the presets at a push, but she's already light years ahead because
Yeah.
she's decided that, and her brain works like that. She wants to know how things work. So yeah, I just send the files off to her, and she's one of the things we do use, which I know is controversial for a lot of people, is we do use positron,
Hmm.
and
Me
we
too.
use it because it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Certainly for our use case, I can't talk about other use cases, and I'm totally aware that a lot of narrators are getting pickup packets from perhaps people that aren't using positron in the way it's intended to be used.
Hmm.
But aside from Liz's proofing, who checks her proof, so you first of all you've got that fail safe, but secondly, the pickup packet that I get on POS is so easy to work with for pickups.
Hmm. That's
Like
amazing.
it literally cut my. I'm pretty good. I end up about 5 pickups an hour, roughly.
Hmm.
And pickup packs used to take me 4 hours, 3, 4 hours scanning around for the time codes and all that malarkey.
Hmm.
And it's cut my pickup packets down to like 40 minutes. Bang,
It's
in and out. What have you
ridiculous.
got? 60 packups, 60 pickups, done. Move on, back to recording.
Yeah.
So
We,
yeah, we've found that to be really helpful.
I started using it, I'd have to ask Trace, a year or two ago, something in there. I use a setup where, and it comes from my days when I was working here with actors coming to the studio. I'd be in my control room and I would do a live producing session. I would live proof them. My lovely assistant, Tracy Johns, she does live proofing for me. And she's incredible. She's got a weird knack at hearing when words are inconsistent with the text manuscript, and she's really good at it. But still, things slip through. So then I run a positron after that. That catches anything that slipped through the cracks. As well, it'll catch any because I am live editing now too. So I'm just editing as I go. Um, with that in mind, any of these sounds that slip through or a long silence that accidentally slipped through the cracks, positron will actually catch that shit. It's pretty amazing. And I also do that for pubs too. So if I'm working for Tantor or any of the other publishers, I'm going to do the same thing. It just gets me ahead of them, so I don't get a ridiculous amount through a publisher, which is pretty embarrassing, you know.
Well, not only embarrassing, it's a time saver whichever way you do it. Yes, it's a
Mm-hmm.
cost, but it's not an exorbitant cost, particularly
Wow.
when you're turning volume like we do.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm sure. Again, I know it's controversial, and I know there are a lot of narrators that would point out that the cost of this should all be on the publisher, and I totally understand that. But like you, I mainly work with indies. So my default working practice, Liz's default working practice, is one way. To then say, well, we won't bother doing anything before we send off to people, doesn't kind of make any sense. When you start
Yeah.
chopping your working practices around, you start making mistakes and looking stupid. And
Yeah.
nobody wants to look stupid.
Dude,
That's not good for business, and it's
it's
not good for our own mental health.
that's a great way to look at it, though. It's just not changing the formula, not changing
Yeah.
it. But this is what I do. This is how I do it. I do the same thing with, like, I will RX stuff that I'm sending to pubs lightly,
Yeah.
but it's the same light touch that I use for my stuff. For indies, I really don't have to do much. It's a great sounding booth. It's world class mic. You got good technique, you're in. It's not hard. But I don't master sending off to pubs, obviously. And I enjoy the mastering process as well. My stuff sounds good. It took a long time, and I'm constantly, your wife probably does the same thing, constantly just tweaking just a little here and there, a little. Can't stop. But po- Positron is tits. That really changed my workflow.
Yeah.
And what it allowed me to do, and I hate to say it, but it allowed me to I don't know that someone could do this if they didn't have my background, but it allowed me to eliminate an editor, which was absolutely fucking phenomenal. It's cheaper in the long run. Now, I took on some responsibilities, and given my experience with the back end, I know what I'm doing. But it's very cost effective. What is it? $10 or something like that per. I forget the. I think I.
It's even less than that when you're turning volume. I think it's like eight something per
Yeah.
finished hour. But
Yeah.
on top of that as well, I get anxious about a number of things, and
Mhm.
it's not generally in my work life, but shipping a product where there's, for example, an extra take in it or something, one of those unforgivable sins,
Oh yeah.
just knowing that it's going through positron means I don't have to be anxious, and that alone is worth $8 an hour
Yeah.
just to lose that anxiety.
Yeah. The peace of mind. Somebody asked in the crowd, "What are your thoughts on AI narrating audiobooks?"
Ooh, fabulous. Hot topic. Um, what are my thoughts on it? So, okay, AI is coming. There's no stopping it. The genie is out of the bottle. It's happened for art with Midjourney, and it's happened on ChatGPT, and you can create all sorts of things with Sudowrite, Novel AI. I'm not so much up on the art stuff, the art platforms. It's coming whether we like it or not. Now, I feel safe as a narrator because AI is nowhere near being able to do a connected emotional sex scene at the moment. And I don't think that's coming anytime soon. So I think those of us that are narrating romance where sex and love move the plot forward in those moments of high emotion. AI is a long way from being able to do that. I totally understand everyone that's in the non-fiction space. Um, Good non-fiction will always, or certainly for a long time, still need a human narrator to be able to inhabit the communication of that content. Funny enough, I listened to something that somebody had done a couple of days ago, and they were using, which I can't, 11 Labs, is it? I think they were using the 11 Labs product and tweaking that, and it sounded bloody good. It really did. Some of it was like it was almost making acting choices, this thing. But the second it got into the sex scene, it was literally like, I'm going to stick it in you, he growled. No, he didn't. He didn't growl that at all. I didn't hear him growl that. So I think as long as we have listeners who are interested in listening to emotions happening truthfully in real time, I don't think there's that much to worry about. I think there's a place for AI for books that maybe wouldn't have any opportunity to be released as an audiobook at all. And I think there's a very good case to be made that people who struggle to read, that people who have bad eyesight, that people who just never got into books when they were younger might want to have access to some of that stuff that wouldn't happen otherwise because of high production costs. I totally buy that.
Mm-hmm.
When AI gets so good that it can actually do our job, then the world's going to have a whole lot more problems than whether or not narrators are working and whether or not listeners are getting what they need. And I think when we get to that point, all bets are off for society as a whole.
When the machines are acting, that's the thing. We're not. Me and you are not competing with AI. That's just not happening.
Mm.
Those are the jobs that those people were never going to pay the amount of money it takes to hire somebody like us.
Yeah.
And great, awesome. Put those books out with AI. That's killer. You know, and really it makes them. I saw one of my friends sent me a. Well, anyways, to humanize these performances from AI, you can actually go in and tell the AI on certain words to slow down or speed up. That's generally the method
Okay.
of humanization for these. So, just as in talking with me right now, where I'm Shatnerizing certain sentences, I'm pausing in weird places. My commas are not where commas should be. My periods are haphazard at best. That's not the way these are written. So they're written for a reader, not for a listener. So for the AI to interpret it correctly, that's really the way you humanize. You go in and speed up and slow down different words. The process of that alone is you can actually make it sound really good, but it takes a long time. If nothing else, if it gets so good that it's making the acting decisions that John Solo would make, I talk about myself in third person. Fine, I'll learn how to program the fucker. It's all good. There's more ways to skin this cat. It's just money. But I don't see it happening anytime soon. It is what it is. Certainly with the romance, but for the for like there's a lot of erotic stuff. Really, stuff like non-con stuff like that, where you can't even put it out on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon. It's not going to sell that much. Dude, use AI. Get that audiobook out so people can listen to it. Why the hell not?
Yeah. I guess it's like anything else. I totally understand the those that have the point of view, and I'm kind of inclined to go the same way. Let the market decide. If a product, and in this case it's an audiobook, but it could be any product because AI is shifting out to everywhere. If that product satisfies that listener's need, if it scratches all their itches and does it well, then they deserve to have the listener pay the money to them. I
Exactly.
just don't think I think we need to continue to have enough faith in the time and the effort and the care that we put into these things, because let's face it, the writers have put infinitely more time in caring about it. Our creative input compared to theirs is a completely diminished scale, but it's still important within that particular type generation of the product, the audiobook. I think that I think that it'll all shake out okay. And I understand why unions very much are against it and want to regulate it. And I also understand why other people are like very super laissez faire about it and are happy just to let the market take its course. I understand both points of view. I'm non-union because I'm in France, and the union here doesn't work in the same way and can't give me any protection. I used to be a member of Equity when I was in the UK. I am. I would be happy to join a union if one could represent me. I think unions are really great things, and they redress imbalances in the world, and they're really great. I also understand the non-union perspective as well, and I think it's just as valid a point of view.
Yeah, I am union myself, but I wasn't always. And to be quite honest, I joined it for healthcare because I'm in the U.S. and healthcare
Mm,
sucks. It's really
mm,
expensive here, so you got to get something. And that's the reason we joined. I'm not really sure. They seem like they're trying to put out a pretty aggressive stance on this in the U.S. with our union, but
mm,
I don't know. Most of the time, they're just chatting back and forth about PC issues, all inclusive. They talk about that a lot here. It's amazing,
mm,
which is all good. That's great. That's awesome. But really, what I want my union to do is give me inexpensive health care and maybe some better rates with some of the pubs. That's what you
mm.
go. You do that. Anyways, dude, you've been a fantastic guest. You are welcome here anytime you want to come back if you got something to promote. Actually, I had one of your clients on here a couple weeks ago, Colette Davison, and
I
she was
believe you
she was
had Colette on, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she was
Lovely
talking
lady.
about you. Oh yeah, she was fantastic. But I know I missed some questions in the comments, so if you get a chance, if you can hop back into the comments and answer some of
Yeah,
those
man,
afterwards, that'd be
for
great.
sure.
Other than that, all you need to do, this is the easy part, just wave to the camera, say bye to the crowd. See y'all later, guys. See you tomorrow.
See you later. Thanks a lot.